Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
You might not know her face, but you know her work as the director of Supergirl, Nancy Drew, Riverdale, and so much more. Today we're talking about her new movie. All joking aside, Shannon Kohli, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. The movie is fantastic. It kind of feels a little bit like the old Tom Hanks, Sally Fields punchline meets a little bit of $1 Million Baby. You know, it just has that tie-in. You know, you have the gruff old coach that reluctantly mentors a young up-and-comer. So that's the $1 Million Baby part, and then just the comics going back and forth. Charlene's character has some amazing lines in there. I will give the one spoiler line that I did really enjoy was the giving blood line, where she's like, "Oh, I'm the only one. Good, keep it for yourself." And I'm paraphrasing so I don't ruin James's joke.
Well, thank you.
Tell me about the process. You know, this movie isn't something we always come across. I mean, I know that you know, there's been a lot of movies about comics and stand-up comedy, and they usually become dramas, but this is a dramedy that's a lot more fun than some of the other ones. When you got James's script and turned it into what it is, you know, how did the process go from receiving the written page to putting it on digital? I was going to say, you know, film, but that doesn't exist anymore.
So first, John Ornoy, our producer, he optioned the script from Inktip. So that's how he connected with James Pickering in the UK. And the script was originally written for a male lead, and it was set in the UK. And so John immediately started working with James to adapt it to North American setting and a female lead. And so from there, you know, when I read the script, I fell in love with the characters, Charlene and Bob. But there was still a lot of work to do. You know, it's very difficult writing comedy, you know, stand-up for other people. So once we got our cast in, they were very helpful in, you know, brainstorming what their character would say and what would work. So the script was always evolving. So from what it was to what we ended up filming, and then again in the editing room. So it was always changing.
Right. It felt very real, especially Bob's character, because I've talked to a lot of stand-up comics, and I have taken a stand-up comedy class, and every point that's touched upon, the reality of it, how it has to be personal to you. You know, everyone's doing this shticky, you know, writing the same type of style, so you have to break out of that. Like, you hit every point on the head, to the point that James and yourself have made a definitive guidebook in a narrative on how stand-up comedy is created.
Yeah, we were fortunate. Richard Lett, who plays Dennis, Bob's best friend who owns the comedy club, he is a professional stand-up comedian, and he's done it for so long. So he's a great comic, and he helped us really delve into that world and sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly of that world, and learn so much about, you know, the physicality of it, you know, the rewriting of jokes, the, you know, testing out your audience. And so we learned from him, and we put all of that into the script. And he was so helpful to both Brian Markinson, who played Bob, and to Raylene Harewood, who played Charlene. So he was always available for any questions.
He actually looks like my priest. So when I saw him on camera with the earring, I was rolling, because I was like, wow, that looks like Father Wayne, you know, only taller and just as mean. But no, I'm kidding. Father Wayne's not that mean.
So the funny thing with Richard is that he has completely changed his life, but he used to be Bob, and he came in to audition for Bob. And he now, you know, since he's cleaned up his life, he plays Santa Claus, you know, around the holidays. And I said, you know, I can't, he's not Bob anymore. He used to be Bob, but he's not Bob anymore. And so we cast him as Dennis, Bob's best friend. And when I saw him next, he's like, "You gave away my part." And I said, "Yeah, but you're not Bob anymore. You're there to help Bob because you know what it was like being Bob. And now you can be the wise friend who, can be there to support someone going through the same things that, Bob is going through." So he really liked that he had now evolved past, what his life used to be.
Oh, for sure. And and the funny thing about the Santa Claus is Father Wayne's patron is Saint Nicholas. So we got this whole tie-in. We really need to introduce Richard and my priest and see if they have like some sort of kinship.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure they get along.
The movie it's I'm trying not to give away spoilers because I enjoyed so much of it. I was like, I want to touch on this, I want to touch on this, I want to touch on this, and I can't touch on any of it. But it touches upon the life of tragedy within comedy. And one thing that Bob mentions early on is either you want to be funny or you want to be happy. You can't be both, especially in this industry. Was that something that Richard had said to you, or was that something that James brought in the script, or from your interaction with comedic actors from being on set?
Mhm. I'm not sure where it came about. It seemed like a brainstorming session, to get that. And, what I loved about it is that is what Bob believes. You cannot be happy and funny. You have to pick one. For him, comedy comes from pain. It comes from painful experiences. And while I love that as a lesson that Charlene can draw from, she can really, delve deep and pull out those painful memories and, turn them into comedy, which is what makes her routine unique. I think at the end she realized that you can have both, and so does he, that you can be funny and be happy.
I would be remiss not to ask, who is your favorite stand-up comedian?
Oh, there are a lot. I mean, I really I like the women. I like Whitney Cummings. I like I'm trying to Sarah Silverman. But I love watching comedy. I still don't know enough about it. It was a very new world to me. So still learning and looking forward to all the up and comers. I feel there's so many people who don't get that big, massive break that I'd love to see in some of the smaller clubs.
Whitney's a good choice. My favorite would be Norm Macdonald. My friend and I saw him last year before the world fell apart. And there were these two drunk hecklers that were there, to the point that Norm restarted the entire act from the beginning 4 times till they caught on that he wasn't going to move on until they shut up. But somehow he made each joke funnier, the same joke funnier each time he told it.
That's an art. That's a brilliant art to be able to rewrite like that on the spot. And yeah. And I have so much admiration because for me, it'd be the most terrifying thing in the world. And Raylene Harewood, who played Charlene, she secretly got on stage at an open mic night. And it was supposedly amateur night, but it really wasn't. It was very experienced comics trying out their material on stage. And she held her own, and one of her friends secretly recorded it, and she was fantastic. And she was playing herself. She wasn't playing a character. So I have so much admiration for, the what it takes to get up on stage and bare your soul.
See, for the next interview, tell everybody that she stole all the jokes from the movie and killed. We have to have a little bit of fun. I mean, this is a serious picture, even though it is dealing with stand-up comedy, but there are the life tragedies that people go through and comics go through. And one thing Bob mentions in the film particularly is that, there's no off days. There's no fair weather comedy. If there's something bad that happens, leave it at the door, make the stage your happy place. You as a director, you can't have bad days, especially with weekly episodic television that you've directed before. So where is your happy place when you have a bad day, and how do you leave your bad days at the door?
For me, I mean, being on set it's a passion, and I love it. And it's like, I always seem to find that adrenaline to keep going. You know, the fair weather line was actually one that I suggested because I grew up riding horses, and we always used to say we don't like fair weather riders. Like a horse needs to be taken care of every single day, whether, you know, it's good weather or not. And so, you know, that's why I admire actors so much. You know, being able to get on set, whether you feel okay or not, is really difficult. As a director, because I'm behind camera, I find it's easier. I don't have to bare my soul as much. I always find into killing, and I find problems. So if you go in with that mindset, no matter what happens in the day, whether you lose location or crew, you're able to find a solution and keep going. So.
One thing I've noticed about your past work is that you work with very empowered female characters, and in all honesty, I get so tired of talking about the empowered female character, because if it's her name on the show, Nancy Drew, Supergirl, you know, it's in the title. You already know that they're the strong, empowered women. But what I like what you do is that you don't make them posture to prove I'm a strong, independent woman. Well, we figured it out because you're the star of the show. You're in 90% of the episode. You know, Charlene is in 95% of the movie. So we already know this. And I want to thank you for not having those posturing moments that are really unnecessary.
Oh, thank you. And I find with female characters, it's, you know, showing all of them, you know, whether they're, you know, strong one day or not feeling as strong the next day. It's about having these characters that have depth and are genuine and speak their truth.
You know, maybe you could answer this better than some of the people I've asked this in the past. But in the Western world, we tend to infantile our grown women and sexualize our children. Like one part of the movie is the telling women to smile part all the time, which I know gets annoying quite a bit. It was probably a compliment 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Now it's, you know, it has a different connotation. But when I look around the world and you look at Nigeria and then Syria and Iraq, and you have 14, 15-year-old really women, because they're picking up guns and defending their villages. That's not something childlike. Why do you think it is in the West we have this weird shift of, oh, she's 25, we got to treat her like 6, and then she's 9, but she looks 12, so we treat her more like she's 15. I don't understand this mentality.
Yeah, it's something I don't understand either, that, you know, that somehow women have to pick between looks and brains and talent, and they can't have it all without threatening the world. And so, you know, I really hope that people's thinking is changing, and I'm seeing a lot of progress in a lot of different industries like film, and it hasn't come easily. And I feel like women before me have been fighting so hard to make these opportunities, which I'm very grateful and fortunate to be able to get. And those opportunities were not available, you know, even 10, 20 years ago. And it's a mindset that I hope is really changing, that as a woman, you can have it all. And it's about finding that balance that works for you, and also not trying to erase yourself to fit in and to not rock the boat or threaten anybody. And so the more women say, you know, enough is enough, I'm not a Barbie doll, I'm not going to smile because it makes somebody else's day happier, you know, effacing my feelings, the more that happens, and the more men, you know, accept women the way they are, and love them the way they are, and don't feel threatened by them, and don't feel that equal rights means taking away their rights. You know, equal opportunities means taking away their opportunities. There's room for everybody. And so I think I really do hope it's changing. I see change, and so that makes me feel positive about the future.
Right. Well, the notion of toxic masculinity is not an alpha trait. It's a beta male trait that's always feeling second best, and even a gamma male trait. It's not alpha. If you're an alpha male, you're not threatened by the success of your woman. Why would you be?
No, and no one needs to be threatened by other people's success. When you see someone do well, that's an inspiration that if they can do well, you can do well. And so it's, there is really room for everybody and everyone's success. So, and the better everyone does, the better the world is.
Right. The only thing I'm intimidated by is your guitar collection, and I would be scared to be in your music room because I'm klutzy. So one of those Les Pauls would actually end up on the floor with me just closing the door. So it's best for me to stay away from those. But which one's
my husband's collection?
So your
It's my husband's
collection?
collection. He's an amazing musician. I'm visual. I don't really have the musical ear. He's fortunate; he has both. he's a director of photography. So yeah, we're working together coming up again. So that's gonna be fun.
Oh, nice. What are you working on together? And was he the DP on this film?
No, he wasn't the DP on this film. He was busy. He was directing photography on Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And coming up, he's DPing Motherland, Fort Salem, and for Freeform, and I'm directing 2 episodes. So it'll be really fun to work together again.
So you guys are busy. That's the only way you get to see each other is working together.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's really busy, and there's some exciting projects coming up, and got a couple more features in the works, as well as some great episodes of TV. And so, yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, that Sabrina show gets a little creepy, so you can tell him I said that, and the visuals from it are extra creepy. So congratulations to him in doing his job. With all joking aside, the movie comes out November 13th. It's VOD, DVD, and the market for going back to cinema isn't, the theaters isn't really there right now. And I really don't know how many people are going to be willing to go now that we've adjusted to all our streaming services and all our options for VOD. What would you say to somebody, it's Friday night, people want a good story, they're scrolling through the usual suspects of where they pick up a movie. Why, all joking aside, especially once they realize it's not a straight comedy, but it's a movie about comedy, should they pick this film?
I say for the same reasons. Like when I read the script, I really identified with the characters, and both the female and male characters. Charlene, because she's a young woman trying to make it in a male-dominated area, and she's told time and time again she can't do it. She's not good enough. She won't ever be good enough, and she doesn't take that. She refuses to accept that, so she keeps trying. And when she does fail, she gets back off, brushes herself off, and gets back on stage. So I really admired her character for that. And then when it comes to Bob, he's this old, jaded comedian with an alcohol problem, and he is bitter and angry. But for him, it was really a story of redemption, because she convinces him to be her mentor. And he almost gets more out of being her mentor than she gets out of him mentoring her, because it's all of a sudden this, he realizes what he's done with his life and how to get beyond that. And it's never too late to be the person you want to be. So I really like that story of redemption for him.
The story of redemption was phenomenal. I love the way it all played together. People will say, oh, these stories don't reinvent the wheel, but we really know there's only like 7 plot points that we have to make interesting. And the fact that you make one of those 7 plot points interesting works for the entire film and, roughly 90-minute project. Another thing I want to make mention for people, it's a multi-ethnic cast, but you avoided the pitfall, and I want to thank you for that, of race baiting and the whole, oh, this character has to be black, so they have to do XYZ that's stereotypical black. This one's a Jewish character, stereotypical Jewish thing. You avoided all the pitfalls and made every character human without going that route. So for that, I really appreciate it, and I thank you for that, because that trope gets tiring. And you think by 2020, having lived in a globalized world, and so like I'm the son of immigrants, so many people have migrated here, or interracial marriages or whatever else, that we could get past that. So I thank you for that as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we, when I read a script and I see woman in her 20s, I don't want to have a preconceived idea of who that woman is. And so I yeah, it was a great project to work on. Mhm.
And thank you for putting her in a closet with black mold in it, justifying what rent she pays in Manhattan, and not giving her like a Friends level 3-bedroom multi-story, what's it called, condominium.
Thanks. That's a reality of being living in Manhattan.
Give us real quick a snippet of what you're working on and what we can look forward to, because clearly this film's in the can, the promotion's going on right now, but obviously you guys aren't stopping. So what can we get a sneak peek for the future?
Well, I'm back to directing episodic. I just finished 2 episodes of Another Life for Netflix, and going on to Motherland and Mysterious Benedict Society, and fingers crossed, maybe a Star Trek. And still working on indie features. I have a fantastic one that was written by Megan Gardner, who wrote a short I directed a couple years ago called Stalled. And it was based on a play she wrote, and it's by far the best play I've ever seen. So very excited to put it on film, or I guess digital these days. So we're working on that, and then a couple other projects as well. So.
Well, do me a favor, find time to sleep when you can. Yeah. And before I let you go, I know you have a very busy day and promotion and everything else that's going on with the film. Where can we find you on social media if we want to connect? And remind everybody about the release date of All Joking Aside.
So release date is November 14th, and I'm on Instagram, but I'm terrible at posting, but you can definitely contact me through there at Shannon Kohli. And where else? Twitter, Shannon Kohli, and Facebook, Shannon Kohli.
And so everybody knows to look for Shannon Kohli and figure out how to spell it right.
Yes.
Last name is Kohli. Shannon Kohli, thank you so much for your time. All joking aside, a fantastic dramedy, a redemption story, a mentorship story, a survival story, everything else that can go with it that you'll enjoy, in real human characters in the surreal world of stand-up comedy. Shannon, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate that. Thanks, Marcy. Thanks.
Thank you.